Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to talk about the concept of school restraint collapse or preschool restraint collapse or restraint collapse. You've probably heard these terms, but before we dive in and talk about that and what you can do about it, if we're meeting for the first time, I'm Dr. Catherine Endy, the family life coach, and I help parents of little kids feel calmer, more confident, and more connected so they can actually enjoy family life. And if you are interested in talking about what it might be like to work with me, you can go to catherineendy.com/call and schedule an opportunity to chat with me. So preschool restraint collapse. This is a fancy term that just means that your kid has been holding it together all day long, and when they come home, they're going to lose it. That's all that it means. It's really just a fancy term for something that you already are probably really familiar with. And the benefit of this having a fancy term associated with it is that it lets you know that this is normal and that this is something that most parents experience and most kids experience, right? So, because the thing that your kid is going through, the thing that you're going through is something that your kid is also going through. It doesn't feel good to lose it at the end of the day, right? And if you think about your own management of your own energy when you've been holding it together at work, or maybe you're a stay-at-home parent and you've been keeping it together all day long, keeping things moving. When the day is finally over and you can kind of let your hair down, get comfortable, you feel that flood of emotion, right? You feel an inability to keep it all in. And that's actually kind of a good thing in the sense that it takes effort and energy to hold it all in all day long. And so if you're a little person and you've been sitting still and you've been getting in line and you've been listening to the teacher and you've been, following directions, that takes quite a lot of energy. And for really tiny people, they might be in school for the first time, or maybe they haven't been in school all summer long. And so they're used to not having a whole lot of structure. Now, all of a sudden, there's a schedule and there's expectations and there's rules, right? It takes a lot of effort to engage in that entire process. And so when your child comes home and they feel comfortable, they see you again, they reconnect, it is normal for them to unload all of that stuff that they've been holding in all day long. So sure, great. It's lovely to know that that's normal and that's to be expected, but what do we do about it? So the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is just to expect it, right? Knowing that this is going to happen helps you to prepare. So making sure that when you are on your way to get your children, that you're preparing yourself so that you can be really available for this meltdown that probably is going to happen. So that might look like taking a couple of deep breaths before you get in the car to go get them, or on the drive to preschool to get them. It might look like making sure that you're hydrated. It might look like just something as simple as listening to your favorite song, or checking in with your body to make sure that you've had a snack if you need one. So making sure that your own like physical and physiological needs are met is really key. And I know that sounds super basic and we've heard it a million times, but it's true that if your own physiological needs are met, you're going to be much better able to show up for your little people. The next thing is this concept that I talk about a lot of allowing. And what I mean there is if you know that this is going to happen, if you can predict it, then it's also important to just allow it to happen and to just make space for all those feelings. And then again, this concept of making space means putting a lot of your attention on being a support to them, validating their feelings, and letting them know that you're going to be there to help contain this outpouring of emotion. Containing it doesn't mean shutting it down. It just means making space, making a sort of energetic container for for this dumping out of emotion that's happening. And then some of those basic things that we talked about with regard to you as the adult: food, water, making sure that your biological needs are met. Those are really important for little kids at that preschool after school time. So making sure that you have a snack for them in the car, making sure that their water bottle is full, making sure they've had an opportunity to go to the bathroom, all of that stuff, again, seems super basic, but it's really important to make sure that all of those boxes are checked, because if we are placing too many demands before all those needs are met, we're going to be met with resistance and more of a meltdown. The next thing is not placing too many demands. So when they get home from school, I know that you want them to put their shoes away and hang up their jacket and hang up their backpack and all of these things. It might be important for your kid, and you know your kid best, but it might be important for them to have a time to just chill for a few minutes or just collapse on the couch. And then we go back and unpack the backpack and put the shoes away and do the things. I know that can be annoying for some parents because you want things to happen in a certain order and you don't want to have to remember to go back and do the thing, but you have to really get to know your kid and know, can they handle that? Can they handle a demand being placed on them the minute they walk through the door? Also knowing that this concept of restraint collapse is going to be especially amplified and especially challenging in the first few weeks of school, even in the first couple of months of school, as they're adjusting to a new environment, perhaps a new teacher, perhaps they're going to school for the first time ever. So they're learning a lot of new routines and there's a lot of demands placed on them throughout the day. So allowing them to have sort of demand-free time for half an hour, maybe even a couple hours after they get home can be really beneficial. So this isn't the time to insist that they do their chores, clean their room, like I said, unpack the backpack. Perhaps a better approach is to allow space for them to just be. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is actually an okay time for screens. I know that screen time is very controversial, demonized. It's not great for the developing brain. However, the developing brain that has just had demands placed on it for 6 hours straight, if not longer, needs an opportunity to power down. So if you have a kid who really just needs to zone out, putting on a show is not a bad idea. And I might get some pushback there in the comments, but I do think for some kids that can be actually a way for them to unwind. And certainly if you're not available to sit with them and read a story or snuggle or whatever, putting a show on can be a good opportunity for them to wind down. I'm not saying don't snuggle with them. Of course, if you can sit and read and snuggle, do that. But some kids also just need to not engage. Some kids need an opportunity to just kind of zone out. So go ahead, give that a try. Now, if your kid is cranky and loses it after you turn the screens off and you see a pattern of that, maybe the screen isn't the best approach. But I don't discourage a little bit of screen time after school if that works for your kid and for your family. So there's a lot more that can be said about preschool restraint collapse. So the main thing I want you to understand is that it's really just a fancy word for I've held it together all day long and now I'm losing it. And that some of the just back to basics of food, water, making sure that those basic needs are met, making sure that you're making space for this to occur, and making it okay, like communicating to your child that their big feelings are okay and that you acknowledge that they just held it together all day long and that was really hard. And now they need an opportunity to let all of that emotion out. That can all be really beneficial. Let me know how it goes in the comments and I will see you next time.